If there's one video you need to watch about no contact, it's this one. I've basically put everything inside this video about why you should do no contact, the benefit of no contact, the impact no contact will have on you, the impact you will have on your ex, and whether you should break no contact or not. I will explain everything after the jingle.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
So first of all, let's talk about psychology. As a therapist, I love talking about psychology, and I love for you to understand how people think, how they behave, and how they react. And in this case, when you are a dumpy, I don't like this term, but when you are a dumpy, it's very hard to understand that actually your ex took potentially weeks or months to take their decision. And by thinking that it's just a question of explaining, of discussing things, that you'll be able to reverse this is wrong. And so realize that you've potentially had few opportunities to fix or to address problems during the relationship, but you haven't. It's not only your responsibility, it's your ex's responsibility as well. Perhaps they didn't express properly, or they denied you the fact that for you to explain yourself. Communication is a two-way thing. So when I say this, don't feel like it's always your responsibility. It was also part of your ex's responsibility. Unless, so that's most of the case, that's 95% of my clients' cases, is that people take not years, but months or weeks to decide that they want to end the relationship. If it's just irrational decision, out of the blue, out of nowhere, you would probably still be together right now, and you wouldn't need to watch this video. Okay, so really, it's a very important thing, because that's why you need to understand that time is not necessarily a criteria. It's not really something that matters. In a way that it's not by accelerating, by trying to get back together as soon as possible, that will be the solution. Because it took time for them to break up with you, it will take time for you to construct a new relationship. It's so important, that's why I wanted to start with this. Force yourself, your timeline is so different than theirs, and you have to accept, you have to slow down the process. I spend most of my time on sessions with my clients is to let them know, slow down the process. You'll be fine. I will guide you on what to do, what to say. I will guide you on how to be secure. But it's really, first step is to slow down the process. It's your unconscious, it's your fear of abandonment that is, making you feel like, I need to act, I need to rush. That's actually the wrong method. So let's move on. Why begging doesn't work? Again, very unconscious drive that we have. We don't think about that, but we feel that loss, and we beg our ex, we plead. That behavior would lower your value. Your ex took their decision to break up with you, and if you beg, you immediately come from a position of, asking for mercy to your ex. Even though they're not necessarily narcissistic people, that reinforces the idea that you're not meant to be together. And it's reinforcing the idea that it's your fault because you're begging, because there's something wrong. So you don't want to come across as weak. You don't want to adopt this victim mentality. That's, for me, the most important aspect as a therapist is what you have to do right now is to reconstruct yourself. And when you put yourself in with this victim mask mentality, you make yourself a harder path for you to heal, for you to move forward. So thinking that you need to connect, that you need to stay in touch, that you need to beg, that you need to apologize, over-apologize, is actually detrimental if you want to get back with your ex. And that's why no contact is one way to break this cycle of unconscious drive to connect, unconscious drive to talk, to have news from your ex. Don't let a breakup define you. Use it to refine you. Remember this. It's so important. You have the choice, basically. Today, watching this video, you have the choice. You can make that conscious decision as whether this breakup will make you stronger or will make you weaker. My job is to make you stronger after this experience. I'm going to share with you the secret of successful relationship. It's very simple. It's very simple. It works on every couple. The foundation to any successful relationship is just, it's built on the bedrock of mutual understanding and respect for each other's needs. If you do this right, you're never going to break up with anyone anymore. That's the secret of relationship. You can pause this video there, take a screenshot, stick it to your wall. That's how you stay with someone for the rest of your life. The problem is, it's super hard to do. It's super hard because it takes the other to be able to communicate his or her needs. It takes yourself to understand your needs, to express your needs, to find the strength, to find the security to express, to know what is a secure way of dealing with someone. And so the problem is what we assume unconsciously, or we think we know what our ex wants. And sometimes, I see that very often, we think they want the following. We think they want us to know that we love them. We say, I see every day almost. I took my wife for granted, and I sent her that love letter, I sent her flowers, I told her how much I loved her. And we feel like that's what they want to hear, that's what they want to know right now. Or see signs of affection. Again, we're repairing what was missing from the relationship. Maybe it was about, you feel like, I need to tell them, like, I understand you. This breakup really made me realize this and that, and let's discuss things. Maybe it's some people think like, they need to know how depressed I am, and that will make them react. That would make them reconsider the decision. The more depressed I will come across, the more pity they'll have, and they'll get me back. Or the same if you do, feel your pain, or perhaps like, sending gifts. Maybe, I didn't buy any gifts to my spouse for many years, and now I realize I should have. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy her, send her flowers or buy him stuff. That's, we think, what our ex wants. I put a little cross next to those bullets because it's definitely not what they want. If you think that's what they want, you're wrong. If you did it unconsciously with that drive, like, that must be right, this is wrong. What your ex wants right now is to be alone, is to have that space on their own, is to have time to reflect. The breakup is just the outcome of a pressure that built up weeks or months. And after that breakup, they just want to enjoy. They just want to reflect. They just want to digest. They are going through a phase that we call a release phase, where they feel like, it's finally over. It took me weeks or months to assess the relationship. I gave it a try. I tried to express myself, or I couldn't really understand what was going on. I felt it was not working. And when I announced that I wanted to break up, I felt like a weight lifting from my chest. I can finally fulfill my vision, i.e., this is not working, I'll be happier without that person. This is what they want. You don't want to hear this. That's why you do everything that was on the previous slide. You don't want to hear this, but that's what's going on. And that's my job to tell you the truth. That's my job to tell you the reality of things. Regardless of the years you spent, regardless of how much they loved you, it doesn't matter. Right now what they want is space, time, being alone, and reflect. So important for you to understand this. When you interrupt the release phase, the problem is that you become like a fly on the ointment. They have this idea, this vision that I'm looking forward to, unconsciously, I'm looking forward to being alone. I'm looking forward to being outside of this relationship. That's not working for me, and I'm suffering from it, and I want something different. Whenever you're there, whenever you show signs, whenever you contact them, there's a risk that they see you in a negative way. And any signs, so sometimes they'll be very neutral, but they would basically, you would prevent them from having this phase of reflection, of being on their own. The problem you have, the misconception a lot of people have, is that they feel, if my ex is distant, if my ex is cold with me, it's just because the message I send, or I'm sending, is not the right thing. So I just need to send something with more intensity, with more intention, maybe more frequently. The problem is that when you do that, the problem, regardless of what you send, you're interrupting their release phase. And they don't want this. Remember, if you want to be successful in relationship, you have to understand your partner's needs and what they want. Right now, they don't want to be speaking with you. So when you interrupt this phase, remember, you make that recovery phase, the relationship recovery, take more time. Because if the release phase, usually it's a couple of weeks. If you interrupt this phase, you extend that phase. Okay? So be really mindful of that. The sooner you let them have this phase, the better it is. So what happens during no contact? Your ex will finally experience this release phase. As I said, the sooner it starts, the sooner it ends. But not only, they would also see you with respect. You need to change, to shift your image of someone who's the dumpy, who's the one suffering their decision because they took control, they took the decision to end the relationship. But when you go no contact, they'll see, okay, he's dealing with that situation as an adult person, in a mature way. What will happen during this phase of no contact, if they've had strong feelings for you, if you have a strong relationship, if you haven't done too much damage before or after the breakup, they will, so that 100% of the case, they will evaluate the relationship. They will really reflect on, what do I want in life? 100% of the case. If your relationship was not meaningful, if you don't have enough history, if you made too much damage, if you were too toxic to each other, your ex won't reflect, they will just want to rush at forgetting you. Now, how to know whether you should, you fall in that category? I made up a quiz for you to test whether you have any chance of getting back with your ex. It's basically a tool that I use to onboard any new clients because I really want to ensure that when I help people, I can help them. And if their objective is to get back with their ex, I really need to ensure that they fit some criteria and they're fit in that category where the relationship is something that I call like recoverable relationship. So take the quiz, it's totally free. It takes about 3 to 4 minutes. You answer a few questions and it gives you a score. And I can guarantee you if the score is above 15, i.e. your relationship, we can recover this relationship. Your ex, if you go no contact, will go through a phase of release. And after this phase, they'll start reflecting on what they want and they start thinking about you. And they start missing you. Because the pain and the pressure and this is not working is not there anymore. Okay, they took away the relationship, but they also took away you. And that's the sort of, when we are not around someone, we start to idealize that person. The painful arguments, the fights, those strong, sometimes negative emotions will fade away with time. And those memories, that the things that you've shared will become nostalgia and you will be regretful of the times together. You can only do that if you let your ex go through that release phase. And again, if you have had a strong relationship. The only way your ex can miss you is if you disappear. It's common sense. You don't want to hear this because you feel unconsciously there's this fear of like, if I let go, they'll forget me. If I let go, they'll find someone else. If I let go, I will disappear from their life. That's not what happens. It never happens like this. Again, unless you've been in a toxic relationship and they've had enough, they expressed so many times and you heard them so many times, or you've been overly dramatic after the breakup, then you shot yourself in the foot and it's over. But if you disappear, there's no way your ex will forget you. If you had something special with them, they want to be happy. And they know you can make them happy. So there is always a moment when you miss your ex. Always. And if you think about that, take any sort of relationships that you had in the past. Even though you didn't get back with that person, or they didn't try to get you back, or you didn't try to get them back, there's always a moment when you feel about the relationship with nostalgia, being regretful of what happened. And if you think, just project yourself in that previous relationships and think like, oh, if my ex would have said that, would have showed up at that time, maybe I would reconsider things. The other day I was speaking with, let's cut this. So just cut the other day. I'm going to start from here. And so I asked myself, like, how does that work? How can we miss people? What's the neuroscience behind that? So I looked at a few studies and basically found that we are hardwired to search for continuity. So basically, creating a bond with someone is that safety and reproduction. So when you're with someone, you're safety, you know what you can expect, you can plan a future together, and our DNA or our species, like any animals, is about reproduction. And so when we have that bond, we have both the safety and reproduction. When we are in a couple, when we are in a relationship, we know what to expect. What happens in the relationship is also, on top of that, it's highly emotional, highly affective, right? So we put a lot of weight on those interactions, right? A lot of weight, a lot of importance on those. And so when we leave those experiences, we have this unconscious drive to experience this again. Because that's so powerful, it's so important, that when we are taken away from this, we will miss those. So you miss your ex, and again, if that relationship was mutual, at some stage, they will miss you too. Right now, that's not the case. If you just broke up, you need a couple of weeks for them to release the pressure, experience new things, go on with their life. That's fine. It's temporary. At some stage, I'll start reflecting and feel the loss. Breaking no contact too soon is the one I discussed before, is being a fly in the ointment. You're just being annoying if you break no contact too soon. They want, again, look at what they want. They don't want to be speaking with you right now. The benefit for you, the benefit of no contact from a therapeutical point of view is that it reduces massively anxiety. When you're in touch with your ex, you are, of course, having lots of highs, lots of dopamine shots when they write to you, when they answer, when you see them. But you have a lot of lows. And this roller coaster is awful because that creates that anxiety, that creates that uncertainty. We discussed before about certainty. We look for certainty, we look for safety. The problem is that your ex can't provide this. So you're nurturing an environment, you're nurturing a dynamic that's unhealthy for you. And thinking that if I let go of this, they'll forget me is a wrong assumption. Is your fear taking the lead? Also, the no contact does help building that resilience, breaking any form of codependency. By being in no contact, you are not thinking about what your ex thinks. How can I please my ex? How can I attract them? No. It's really about you and you only. If you have an anxious attachment style, I know it's very hard because you tend to rely on others for your own happiness. But let's use this opportunity to build that resilience and that safety, that security that secure attachment style where you feel okay with when you are distant with people. It's also very important because by going no contact, you can figure out what's best for you, what should be the next course of action. But from another point of view, rather than being head down, focusing on the next message you're going to send, really take that step back and work through your emotions. Obviously, my thing as a therapist, it's so important because I can guarantee you the problem you had throughout your relationship was about how you could manage emotions. If you're anxious, it's how you could manage any form of that fear of abandonment that made you overreact, that made you confront your ex, that made you get angry, get sad. You have tons of protest behaviors attached to being anxious. If you're avoidant, it's really about, like myself, where I used to be avoidant, is really about not knowing your emotions and dismissing anything and feeling, hey, it's great. There's no drama in that relationship. I never got into a fight. I don't care. Therefore, it's easy to be with me. So it's really about understanding those things, and I can guarantee that the problem you have had in your relationship and perhaps in other relationships is your ability to manage your emotions. And of course, all of the above are the reason sometimes people need my help to really accelerate this process. Now, should you break no contact? That's the $1 million question. I know because a lot of people tell me, oh, I've seen on this video, I've seen on this article, you should never ever break no contact. I'm wondering what's your view on that, so I'll give you my view. I understand why people would say never ever break no contact. Because if you don't really care about the result, no contact from what I described before is the best way to heal. It's the best way to move forward. It's the best way to move on, to forget, right? If you're the dumpy and want to really create some distance, it's the best way. Especially with, I would go even like radio science, like you don't even follow your ex on social media because the problem is that social media will bring you back. And it's kind of awful because just with 2 clicks, you're just back into that breakup, just back confronting that pain of the breakup. And the idea of like, if they broke up, they need to reach out because they're the one who took the decision, etc., etc. So, of course, if you go no contact, you forever, and they don't reach out, it means that that person, you were not important to them in their eyes. They didn't even care, breaking no contact. And therefore, it's better for you to move forward and ignore them. So that's the sort of the dogma of never ever break no contact. Is that if they took the decision, they're the ones to reach out. And if they never reach out, then they're not meant to be with you. Fair enough. The problem is, in some cases, and I think not a majority, but in some cases, it's slightly more complex than that. Sometimes you just need to poke a little bit. Sometimes they have that fear of reaching out because they don't want to hurt you. Sometimes there's also, and I see that very frequently, it doesn't really help you moving forward. I have people calling me and they've been in no contact for 6 months, a year, 2 years. And they tell me like, do I have a chance of getting back with my ex? And the obvious thing is like, by that time you should have had closure, because I can assume that after 2 years of no contact, your ex has moved on. So it's really about finding yourself that closure. Because you just need to gain clarity to move forward. Sometimes it's just a question, sometimes they need me to give that clarity. Sometimes I have to tell them like, it's been 2 years and I think your partner moved on. Or sometimes you need to just confront or just discuss, just have a sign. And have some kind of rules of like, where do I need to sort of give up and say, okay, it's not going to work. Because don't get me wrong, a lot of people are successful. Some are not. But the idea is to be okay with the outcome. Because you've tried your best, and because you know that by trying your best, you haven't done any damage right? And by doing your best, it's not writing the best letter, it's not sending the best gift. It's by approaching the situation in a secure, attached manner. So in a lot of the time, from my experience with clients, can I say it's like this for everyone? I don't know. But for my clients, for sure, if you break no contact, your ex will be happy to hear from you. If you've done it properly, if you have been respectful after the breakup, if you have had, again, it's so important, if you have had a strong relationship, something, a history, of course, they will be happy to hear from you. And so remember, a breakup or this no contact helps you create a new start. Breakup can be useful. I'm a strong believer that breakups, that any relationship, everybody should break up at some stage. Ideally in a proactive way, but breakups can be useful. If you've had a productive no contact phase, i.e. you focused on personal growth and focused on you and focused on your attachment, for example, if you're in secure attachment, you will be able to reconnect with your ex. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. But what you have to do is to start a new relationship. Don't try to behave the same way. Don't try to be the same person. They don't want this. They rejected that. What your ex is after is something new. Perhaps they expressed that throughout the relationship. They wanted you to change, and for some reason you haven't. Now, hopefully with that phase of the contact, working with a therapist, working on your own, doesn't matter, you've managed to change those things. You've managed to be more secure, more empathetic, a better communicator. Perhaps it's more about like spending more time with your kids, all these kind of things. Why would your ex not giving you a second chance if that's what happens? If you're just presenting them with the missing pieces of the puzzle. And what you're doing is like presenting a new relationship, a version, a V2 of your relationship. Of course, perhaps that won't work, but the thing is, if it doesn't work, you'll be at peace because you've done the work. Because you took the decision to use that breakup to become a better person, to become more secure, to learn about yourself. And if your ex denies this, if your ex doesn't want to see this, that's their problem, that's not yours. And the next person you'll meet, you will be the person to benefit from that new version, from that more confident, more self-assured person with a high self-esteem. So again, the idea is to push the process centered around you for you to create that right dynamic, to create that new relationship, the new terms of the relationship. Sometimes it happens, people will deny, they would feel like it's not, they won't say it's too late, but they will have a very stubborn way. It's very rare because usually if you had something special, people, they don't want to give up something that made them happy. Okay? So never doubt about that. But if you go through the process and it doesn't work for some reason, trust me, you look at my reviews. Some of my clients, they don't get back with the ex. It's a minority. But my reviews on Trustpilot are 5 out of 5. You would assume that I would have a lot of ones and twos of people who didn't get back with the ex, but that's never what happens because they enjoy the idea, they enjoy the process of working, of presenting themselves in a different way to the ex. And when they do, they get that closure. If they don't get back together, they get closure. Any other question? I know it was a big video. Any other sort of question, let me know in the comment section. You can also subscribe and click if you want to watch more videos. I'll see you next time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer.